episode of Thanks for Stopping By. Welcome back to the podcast. We're back here live in the studio. Uh, Quick thing I want to say about the last episode. Obviously, if you watched the last episode, first of all, thank you so much. That was a really big step for me. Taking the podcast to video form is something I've wanted to do for a really long time, like I explained in that episode. So thank you for that, for watching. But the second thing I want to address is the audio. I do genuinely, sincerely apologize for the audio quality of that episode. I know it was quite bad. Like I explained in that episode, I'm still sort of figuring out the video podcast style. And so some of my settings were off, and still learning the software. So if you sat through it and bared with me, I appreciate it. I'm hoping I got everything fixed for this episode. I'm pretty sure I did. So hopefully the audio is much better. I'm pretty sure it will be. But yeah. So welcome back to the podcast. So the I gotta talk about this right away because last night I got Prime Video, which like fuck Amazon, but like also we use their services sometimes. Sorry, but I got Prime Video, because I wanted to watch the show Invincible, because one of my roommates was watching it and it reminded me of it. I know I'm a little late to this party. I know everyone's already talked about it and made all their memes about it. But I didn't have Prime up until last night. And I was like, oh yeah, I've been wanting to check that out. I've heard it was pretty good. And I stayed up till about 5 a.m. pretty much getting to up until the last episode, until I was like so tired that I was like, okay, I have to go to sleep a little bit. And then I woke up this morning and finished the last episode. And I wanted to come on and talk about it because I have a lot of thoughts about it. I really, really liked Invincible. I know that's like the coldest take that a person could have. But yeah, I really enjoyed the show. I thought it was really entertaining. It was a lot funnier than I thought it was going to be. I, for context sake, I had no idea what Invincible was. I hadn't heard of the comic before, until the show, was growing in popularity and everybody kind of started talking about the comic, that it was an adaptation. But yeah, it was really, really a lot funnier than I thought it was going to be. And the main thing I think, sorry, this is going to be all over the place because I have a lot of thoughts and I don't really know where to start. I think a comparison that I've heard a lot, which is kind of an interesting comparison, is a lot of people compare the show to The Boys, which is another show that I'm a very, very big fan of. I love The Boys. Have never read the comics. I read the first one, and there was just a lot. It was a lot. There was just a little bit too much going on for me. And I think The Boys, while not the subtlest of shows, was definitely a lot more subtle and a lot more, I think, thoughtful about what they show on screen for the most part. But yeah, this show's getting a lot of comparisons to The Boys, which is kind of an interesting and I think unfair comparison because, it was sort of like, I feel like The Boys has now become the new Watchmen in that sense, right? In the sense of like superhero critique and the whole like, how would superheroes interact in our real world, and What would it be like if superheroes really did exist in the society that we live in today? It's like not by any means a new concept, um, but one that I feel is interesting enough if told in different ways. And I think for a long time, The Watchmen was kind of that default. Anytime there was a new movie or comic or show or anything that sort of critiqued superheroes and tried to flip them on their head, so to speak, and kind of do the whole "what if superheroes were real and bad?" It kind of became the whole like, oh, it's the new Watchmen. It's the new social commentary about superheroes. And now I feel like that The Boys has become that. Where now when we have stories like Invincible, it's like, oh, this is the new Boys or whatever. Even though The Boys came out like the season 2 came out like last year. Um, and I feel like it's an unfair comparison because while they are about like, what if superhero bad, the shows are making commentary about like completely separate aspects of it. Um, One of the things, and it's not a bad thing by any means. I love both shows a lot. Far more Invincible, far more than I thought I would. Um, and I feel like one of the main things I've always taken away from The Boys that I've liked a lot more about The Boys a lot more than like a lot of other sort of superheroes existing, would they be bad kind of stories, is a lot of them tackle like morality and like would they see themselves above us, and The Boys definitely has a lot of that. But my favorite part of The Boys is the scenes where there's two business people sitting in a room discussing contract deals and essentially trading these fucking superheroes like they're ball players. And I've said from day one, that's always been my favorite aspect of The Boys. The fact that they're like professional athletes, because they would be. They're on, energy drinks and Doritos bags, and they're in commercials and they have movies about them and action figures, and they are celebrities. And I feel like that aspect is what the show of The Boys tackled really well for me. Um, like I said, a lot of superhero critique, quote unquote, stories um, focus solely on like the god-like aspects of superheroes existing, or the fear of like, if a superhero went bad, could we fucking do anything about it? And again, The Boys does that a lot, but I think they chose really interesting ways to talk about it, and even more interesting stories about how these characters exist within pop culture and within business, and they are they are properties. They're intellectual properties. There is a company that owns Homelander, so to speak. Um, and I that's always been one of my favorite aspects of The Boys, and I think at least from what I've watched, none of the other superhero type critique things have really touched on that. Um, but going into Invincible, Invincible is such a weird show because it kind of falls into a category. This is gonna be a fucking wild comparison, but just hang on with me. Invincible kind of falls into the category with something like there's a game. There was a game, for those of you who may not have heard of it. There was a game called Doki Doki Literature Club. Doki Doki Literature Club is a fucking amazing game. It is so well written. It is so smart and so well done. Basically, Doki Doki Literature Club was a visual novel. It was released for free on Steam. It was, you know, portrayed with the very typical anime cutesy girls going to high school style of visual novel, like a dating sim. And you play this guy who's at this school, and he joins a literature club, and there's 4 girls, and you can kind of pick and choose certain events and dialogue choices that can lead you down the path to dating one of these girls. Um, and for the first while, it's just that. There's no fucking hints as to what it's going to be. There's nothing off. It is literally a by the numbers dating sim. Um, and then out of nowhere, one of the paths leads to one of the characters taking her own life. Which is why I advise the content warnings at the beginning of the game. But then the game, that moment catches you off guard, so like out. It's so out of nowhere, and once that happens, the entire game becomes this like fourth wall breaking meta horror experience, and it's so good. I can't praise Dan Salvato enough for what he did with Doki Doki Literature Club. It's one of my favorite horror games for that specific reason. I even have little chibi drawings of each of the girls from Doki Doki Literature Club on my little pin board over there that I got from a anime convention. They're so cute. Um, but while I love the game so much, and it's such a fun experience, and it's even better for YouTube for Let's Players. I very much think it was designed with Let's Plays and streaming in mind. Um, but while all of that reigns true, Doki Doki Literature Club as well as Invincible fall into this really weird category where I don't feel like a lot of people get to experience them the way they're kind of meant to be experienced, or at the very least not a lot of people get the true quote unquote first time experience. And what I mean by that is a lot of people, including myself, go into Doki Doki Literature Club knowing that at some point it becomes a horror game, it becomes a scary experience. They know the lore behind the game, or they at least know what it is. They go into the game knowing that it is going to become a horror game. And while that's great and fine, I think it's kind of weird and sad that nobody, or at least not a very very small amount of people to this day, you know, from now going forward, get to experience Doki Doki Literature Club the way uh, it was kind of found out about, which is people saw this random fucking dating sim, played it, and oh shit, it's a horror game. What the fuck? That's so scary. I had no idea. Um, Kind of similar things with PT. You know, PT, back when PT came out, everyone thought it was this random fucking game demo that dropped for free on PlayStation Store. And all of a sudden, holy shit, first of all, it's the scariest fucking thing anyone's ever experienced. If you haven't played PT, you can't anymore. Which is a whole nother can of worms that we can open in another day. Um, you can't experience PT anymore. You can watch people do it online because obviously it blew up online. But it was a free demo that people played, realized it was fucking terrifying, and then went through these cryptic, crazy, like internet conspiracies to beat the game and realized that it was actually a demo for the new Silent Hill game. And like, again, myself included, like I played PT for the first time knowing that it was a demo for Silent Hills because that's how I heard about it. You know, heard you know, there's this crazy demo that was released under a fake name, and then you play it, beat it, realize it's the trailer for Silent Hills. And it's so, that was a similar experience I got going into Invincible. Was I knew what the show was. I had seen all of the memes about Omni-Man. I had seen all of the memes and discussion and discourse and you know, conversation around the violence and brutality. I had watched the videos about it. You know, so I, and it's so weird because I go back and forth every time I think about this conversation. I have this conversation with Ryan all the fucking time. Um, I go back and forth because on one hand, there's so many times where I'm like, God, what it would be like to be able to go back and not have the knowledge of what Doki Doki Literature Club or PT or Invincible, like what any of that is, and just experience it not knowing what the show is going to be. You know, sitting down to watch Invincible and thinking it's just going to be this fun superhero romp, kind of bright, colorful, like, yeah, we're doing superheroes. And then all of a sudden, Omni-Man fucking murders the Justice League. What are they called? The Guardians of the Globe. Uh, you know, fucking just like brutally murders the shit out of them. And some people got to experience that and be like genuinely surprised. Like, holy fuck. I didn't see that coming. But a lot of people experienced the show knowing that that's exactly where it was going to go, myself included. And I constantly go back and forth. Like, on one hand, I'm like, fuck, like, how cool would it be to be able to sit down and start playing Doki Doki Literature Club, and halfway through, all of a sudden, I have this horror experience that I had no idea was coming. Or to go on PlayStation Store and look for free games because I'm poor and I can't afford new games, and see PT and play it and go like, this is genuinely one of the greatest horror experiences I've ever had in my entire life, and then beat it, you know, and find out it's the trailer for Silent Hills, and get even more hype that Hideo Kojima and fucking Guillermo del Toro are teaming up uh, with creature design from fucking Junji Ito to make this like horror experience. Or same thing with Invincible, like being able to sit down and not know any of the brutality or violence or you know, all the things they were gonna like turn on their head about the superhero genre. But on the other hand, there's another part of me that recognizes that like without any of that information, I probably never would have experienced any of those things. If I didn't know Doki Doki Literature Club was a horror game, I probably never would have even come across it, because I don't play a lot of, you know, visual novel dating sims. It's not necessarily my scene. It's not necessarily a thing that I would seek out. So I probably would never know that there's this beautiful game out there that I love, because if I didn't know it was a horror game, I never would have even heard about it, you know, or PT, a horror game that, you know, from the title, it's just look like, you know, you see a free horror game, you think, okay, it's probably just some random, you know, indie horror game. Like there's a million of them. Like maybe I'll play it, maybe I won't, you know, and even if you do play it, you find it and experience it for yourself. I certainly don't have the fucking brain power to beat PT, because if y'all don't know about PT, let me go on a quick tangent here and tell you about PT. Like I said before, not only is it genuinely one of the best horror experiences I think I've ever had in my life, and it's genuinely like terrifying. Um, the way you beat the game is so fucking convoluted and buck wild that at one point, one of the things you have to do to beat the game is to say a name out loud in real life into your PlayStation microphone. Hey, fucking what? No, you can't do that. Hey, Hideo, retire, because you can't do that. That's unfair. Who do you think? Who do you think you are? I am. Fucking, how dare you give your fans this much credit? You know? Okay. I love, because as much, you know, I as much as I love to sit and go, oh, I love when horror experiences don't hold my hand, and I love when they trust their audience to figure out, the meaning behind the film. Motherfucker, I didn't mean to take it that far. I don't. You think I'm gonna fucking like? I'm not like a treasure hunter. I don't know. I can't decipher a fucking puzzle. Like that shit was so, like I never, without the internet, and I'm sure a lot of people are thinking, well, there had to be some people who did figure it out. Yeah, of course there were, because the internet and people who play the games on the internet are fucking insanely talented. The people that can beat a fucking, like, figure out the secrets for an entire game the day it comes out. Yeah, those people are crazy talented and have a lot of time and energy and fucking passion to figure that out. I don't have the patience for that. I don't have the brain power for that. You know? I think the last time I even put that much effort into a game, I guess, would be Resident Evil 8. I played that game like 6 times in a row. But to be fair, I think it was designed that way on purpose, because Resident Evil games are meant to be kind of played over and over again. Um, but yeah, like without this like subset of people who do that for a living and like are really good at that, I never would have beat PT. You know, like on the lucky chance that I even heard about it, I never would have been able to experience that it was, the next Silent Hills without the internet. You know, and the same thing for Invincible. Like, as much as I liked the show and as cool as I thought it was, if I didn't know about what it was and all of the brutal aspects and all of the, sort of the type of show it was that was trying to show how gruesome and real being a superhero would be, I never probably would have watched it, because even once I heard about it, it still took me a minute to watch it. So if I never heard, if I'd never seen the conversations online or watched videos about the show, I probably never would have watched it. So it's such a interesting kind of thing in my mind. This sort of the back and forth I have with that type of content, I guess. That was a really long-winded way of saying that I liked Invincible. um, but yeah, I really, really liked the show for the most part. I feel like the team who made Invincible really, really were not given the time or resources in the animation department. And a big, a big speculation on why is the fucking cast, because holy shit, this is an all-star cast. Like, literally every scene with a new character, I was like moving my mouse to, like, when the timestamp and all that shit comes up on Amazon, it like gives you a cast list, and every 5 seconds there was just like some huge name for like nothing characters too. There's a character who's just like a costume designer. He has like 5 scenes in the whole show. It's fucking Mark Hamill. Yeah, sure. You know, just, yeah, he'll stop by and do it. you know? Um, but yeah, I feel like, and I mean, the animation has kind of, it's been dunked on a lot. And a thing I don't think that gets talked about a lot, because it's, it's really easy to just dunk on a lot of the goofy, poorly animated scenes. But I feel like with the limited, resources or time or whatever it was, that the show was given, there are moments where they really show their creativity in trying to like kind of hide the animation limit. Like, by the way, spoilers for Invincible if you haven't seen it. I'm kind of gonna spoil it a little bit. But there's a scene where Omni-Man goes to like another planet. He goes through like the alien portal, and he's like gonna genocide the fucking planet pretty much. And they give the planet like this red tint, and like giving it this really cool kind of stylized vibe with the red really helped them, I think, hide some of the uh it let them kind of hide some of their animation, in a more stylistic way. Um, Same thing, uh, with like I definitely think they saved a lot of their budget or time for like the big fight scenes. The fight scenes are like really what the show kind of pushes. There's a there's a very specific episode where you can tell it was like it had to be like one of the last things they did. And it's episode 4, where Mark like takes a trip with a team to go to Mars. It's like the first Mars trip, and he's there to like help protect them or whatever. Dude, it looks like another show. It's honestly every character's animated like the neighbor guy from Aqua Teen Hunger Force. You know, the guy with like the wife beater. Like it just looks like a different show. It's fucking so bizarre to me. And like there's so many scenes where like they just like took a still image of a character and like moved them across the screen. It's really weird, and I feel bad because I don't know fuck all about animation, you know. But I don't want to be like, oh, these people did such a bad job. Like, what the fuck? Like, clearly, I think they weren't given, whether it was time, resources, money, like whatever the fuck the issue was. I think that the animation department definitely got kind of fucked. But that being said, like, kind of like similar to how I feel about video games, like the show is so well written and fun and engaging that the animation never really bothered me, other than, like I said, a couple noticeable moments in an episode 4. And it's not a coincidence that the animation is as noticeable in episode 4, because episode 4 is also kind of boring. It's like a side mission thing that's kind of boring. Um, so like, yeah, it really never bothered me too much. It was noticeable every once in a while. I'd be like, it was kind of goofy looking, but I was so engaged and having so much fun with the show that it never really mattered, that it wasn't like pristinely done. It didn't look like a fucking Final Fantasy cutscene or whatever. um, yeah, and I mean, I, with the exception of like, I feel like the characters were really well done. Obviously, standout performances from a lot of different people. Sandra Oh, fucking great job as Debbie. Sandra Oh, I love her. She's so good. Watch Killing Eve if you haven't watched Killing Eve. That show's really good. um, but yeah, I mean, everyone did a really great job. I've heard some people say that they didn't necessarily envision Omni-Man's with J.K. Simmons' voice, but I thought it was great casting. I think it was perfect for that role. And yeah, everyone did a really good job. All of the characters are written well for the most part. I have one complaint, and this complaint hurts me to my core because I love Zazie Beetz so much. I think she's so fucking talented. I want a Domino movie now. Um, but I don't like the character of Amber, and it sucks too because she's even doing a good performance in the role. But the way they wrote Amber makes her so unlikable, and it's so irritating because like she could be such a good character, but she basically exists to either A, talk like a fucking Tumblr OC. Like she does not talk like a real human being. She talks like a fucking Tumblr post. She talks like a fucking Hamilton fanfiction OC. And when she's not doing that, she exists to be mad at Mark. And there's one scene specifically that I've really, really fucking heard people get mad about. And I was, even knowing that this happens, when it happened, made me really mad. There's a scene where they're visiting this college and they get attacked by like this fucking cyborg robot. And, they're all panicking and freaking out and like wondering like, oh shit, what's going to happen? And they look over and they're like, Mark, we need your help. And obviously he's gone. And it cuts back and now he's invincible. Doo-doo-doo saves the day. And like Amber gets mad at him, which, like, sure, he kind of bailed. Like, yeah, he claims he was going to get help, but like, he dipped out when he could have been helping. Helping people is like her whole thing. she's like very much about like community and helping the, people who need it. And so obviously her boyfriend just being like, bye, like I'm in danger, fuck these other people, she'd probably get understandably upset. So I was okay with that because at this point we're under the impression she doesn't know he's a superhero. She doesn't know he's invincible. Um, and obviously this causes, strain in their relationship and they break up and it's all bad, whatever. But when they get back from this trip, he's like, okay, I'm gonna reveal to her that I'm invincible. Like I'm gonna show her like it's me. I this is why I'm late to stuff. This is why, whatever, the whole shebang. Like because I'm invincible, I'm a superhero. And she goes, he flies in her room and he's like, hey, it's me. I'm the blue and yellow man from the TV. And she's like, yeah, I know you're a superhero. I figured that out weeks ago. When I finished writing my Tumblr poem, I knew you were invincible the whole time. And he's like, well, then what the fuck was this the whole shit? Like, why were you fucking mad this whole time? And she's like, because you lied to me. Hey, Amber? Fuck you. Dude, and I'm not alone in this. So many people have pointed out how fucking stupid this is. Because, no shit, he can't tell you he's a fucking superhero. A, you've been dating for like 4 days. Okay? So, like, I'm not even questioning his, like, should I tell her? Should I not? Like, no, you shouldn't. Because if you don't last, which, by the way, they do such a poor job at getting you as an audience member to care about Amber. Because she's just written bad. And I don't know why. Because a lot of other characters are written fine. Like, everyone's written pretty well. And she's just written so poorly. And then this happens, and it's like, fuck, get the fuck out of here. This shit made me stay. Like, I already didn't like Amber all that much. I didn't care about their relationship. I will say I'm glad they didn't go the route I thought they did, which was there was obviously, or what seemed to be obviously, this, like, love triangle between Amber, Mark, and Eve forming. And I was like, okay, that's going to be the thing. It's going to be like, dude, my girlfriend, but this superhero girl, she's also, like, she gets me. Like, that. I don't know what the fuck that was. But they didn't do that. Like, the second that Eve finds out about Amber, like, that it's, like, an official thing, she's just kind of like, hey, like, good on you, dude. Like, nice. Good job. And then they're just pals for the rest of the show. And I was like, a dope. Cool. That's healthy. Like, good. She's just like, sick. Nice for you, dude. Like, lit. And then she just, like, has her own arc. And I was like, hell yeah, Eve. Like, nice. Where'd that writing go for Amber? Where the fuck was that? Because all she does is get mad at nothing. And then when Mark gets his ass beat, she's like, oh, I love you again. Eat dicks. No, you don't get to do that. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's so sad. And if you liked it and you liked the way she's written, that's fine. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I could not. It made me very upset because Amber had the potential to be a really cool character. And they had the potential to write an interesting version of an already kind of interesting element, which is superheroes who have non-superpowered partners. Because over history, that's always been the more interesting aspect of like Spider-Man and Mary Jane. It's like, balancing that life. And instead, they took all of the negative cliches of those type of relationships and wrote them all into fucking Amber. Like the one thing they didn't decide to change. So that was unfortunate and a little irritating. But other than that, I really enjoyed my time with Invincible. I thought it was a very fun show. I'm very excited to see future seasons and see where the fuck they're going to go. There's obviously going to be more seasons. The show is immensely popular, and they set up like 20 fucking loose ends. So there's definitely going to be another season, and I'm excited for it. I will definitely watch it when it comes out. If you haven't seen Invincible, go give it a watch. If you got a few extra bucks and you want to get Amazon Prime, or if you want to sign up for a free trial and then delete it after you watch it, like somebody may have done that you don't know. Or if you already have it, give it a watch. I think it was not something I regretted watching. That's the best way I can put things. But yeah, with that being said, I think that's a good spot to wrap it. Sorry, I ranted about stuff. I mean, you know what? No. Okay, I'm not sorry. This is what we're here for. I need to stop apologizing for being like, guys, I'm sorry I did my show. I'm sorry I did the podcast. Ooh, sorry. I'm so shy and I did my show that I fucking set up this microphone to do and then apologize for no reason. I need to go. I'm clearly in such a manic mood. Thank y'all so much for joining me again. I appreciate you listening and or watching. Again, we're back with the weekly uploads. I upload the podcast every Thursday, which will be right here on this YouTube channel. So if you want to come back and watch/listen to more of the podcast, feel free to throw me that subscribe and maybe a like if you really like this episode, or if you really like me. It's a good thumbnail shot. But yeah, thank y'all so much for listening. I love you all so much. Make sure to subscribe. Check out my other channel I do with my wife Ryan called Saffron Sapphics, where our podcast is hosted, as well as a plethora of other content. I'm going to be leaving to California for this weekend, so I will have podcasts weekly, but they're going to be backlogged. So I'm going for a wrestling tournament that I talked about in my last podcast. And I will not be able to give you the upload or the updates on it on the podcast until way after it's over. So if you want updates on it, you can follow my Twitter, which will also be in the link in the description below. And there might be a video about it as well on this channel. So maybe if you want to see it, you guys subscribe, or you can't see it if you don't subscribe. I mean, you can, but it won't feel as nice if you're not subscribed. But anyway, thank y'all so much. I love you all so much. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And most importantly, thanks for stopping by.